Hello and welcome to this presentation on security and management licensing. In this presentation we will be looking at the licensing of the Forefront and System Center products. My name is Vicky Lee and I will be taking you through this presentation today. So we're going to start the session going through the management products, or in other words the System Center family, and then we'll be taking a look at security in the form of the Forefront family. What is System Center? Well, System Center is the family of leading IT management solutions there to help IT professionals proactively plan, deploy, manage and optimize both their physical and their virtual IT environment. And one thing that's quite important to note about the System Center products is that it is the same set of products, irrelevant of whether you're working in a physical environment or whether you're working in a virtual environment. Now, there are a number of products that we're going to be looking at today, starting off with System Center Operations Manager. And then we'll go through and look at the rest of the products in the form of Configuration Manager, Data Protection Manager, Virtual Machine Manager, the new product which is Service Manager, and finally System Center Essentials. So what is System Center Operations Manager all about? Well, it's really there to help you avoid the avoidable. Imagine that you're an IT person. There's nothing worse than discovering that your email isn't working by having your end users phone up and say that they can't email anymore. There's two really bad things about this. One, email has gone down, the other, you didn't know about it. So Operations Manager is there to monitor your servers, and it keeps tabs on how your servers are running and will feed back to IT whether servers are happy, not happy, do they need a little bit of action. So the nice thing about this is that in theory you can fix an issue before it actually results in downtime. But another thing that Operations Manager does for you is to tell you how to respond to any of the problems that you might have. So if your server comes up with error 57, for instance, it will tell you what error 57 actually means and the steps that you need to go through to resolve that problem. And finally, it'll report back on the availability of your servers. So if you want to know how much uptime and downtime you've had, then Operations Manager is the product to tell you that. Now, Configuration Manager does a number of things. Let's look first at application deployment. Imagine that you want to install Office 2010 onto a number of computers in your organisation. You could obviously go with your disk and sit at every single machine and manually install that software, but it would be much quicker to give Configuration Manager the image that you want to install, tell it which machines to install on, and then it will push that deployment out onto those machines so that you don't actually need to go and sit at them. It also does asset management, so it will look across your network and it will tell you the spec of all of your hardware that you've got sitting out in the organisation and what software that you've got installed on them. It also looks after your security patch management, so making sure that all of your machines are patched with the latest updates, and it will report back on how those patches are working. So if patches are failing on any of the machines, it will inform IT of that so that they can go and sort that problem out. And what about the support for mobile workforce? Well, many companies have users that are not logged onto the network all of the time. They're out and about visiting customers. So the nice thing here is that it drizzle feeds any updates that are coming through, so that if a user logs off halfway through an update, Configuration Manager will remember where it got to, and when the user next logs on, will just carry on as if undisturbed. So Data Protection Manager, as the banner at the top says, is the Microsoft backup and recovery solution for Windows customers. So we're talking here about continuous data protection of Windows applications and backing up data to disk, tape and the cloud. Now, when we talk about the Windows applications, we are talking about things like backing up data held on Windows Server, SQL Server, Exchange Server, SharePoint Server, and there's really an ever-growing list of Microsoft applications that Data Protection Manager will back up. Another nice thing to bear in mind is that it will back up these applications if they're running in a Microsoft virtualized environment as well as running in a physical environment. And it's not just a backup for server solutions, it will protect the Windows client machines as well. Now, Virtual Machine Manager really does what the name says. It's there to manage all of your virtual machines. So they're to assist IT with the rapid provisioning of brand new virtual machines, so be it moving from a physical environment into a virtualized environment, or just by having templates to create brand new virtual machines on your servers. But it will also look at the workload of those servers and suggest which virtual machines you should have running on which physical servers so as to get the most out of those physical servers. And all done out of a central console. Service Manager is a brand new product, and it provides an integrated platform for automating and adapting IT service management best practices. It provides built-in processes for incident and problem resolution, change control, and asset lifecycle management. Now, if you look at the bottom of the slide, you'll see it provides an organisation with connectors to data held in Configuration Manager, Operations Manager, and Active Directory. And this data creates a baseline configuration management database. This centralised knowledge-driven database serves as the repository for operational data, client configuration information, and incident management knowledge. Key asset information, performance metrics, and configuration management data are centralised in the database, meaning that it can be used for incident resolution, effective change management, and intelligent decision-making. Also, alerts from Operations Manager and error events from desired configuration management automatically generate incidents in Service Manager and kick off workflow processes that give IT analysts a full range of information about the issue automatically, allowing for effective and efficient resolution of undesired client states and service interruptions within the data center. System Center Essentials is a unified management solution aimed at the medium-sized business, giving IT a single console through which they can manage tasks across both their physical and virtual servers, client machines. They can deploy their software, and they can do their asset management and keep tabs on what sort of hardware and software they have sitting inside of the organisation. Now, the System Center products all follow a similar licensing model. So in this slide, let's imagine that we're using Operations Manager as our example here. So Operations Manager would need to be running on a server, and that server would need a server license, an Operations Manager server license. Then every device that it is managing would then need a management license. Now, if it's a client machine that's being managed, you would need a client management license. And if it was a server that was being managed, you would need a server management license. And these server management licenses come in two flavours, either a standard server management license or an enterprise server management license. And the difference between the two is basically the workload that is being managed. If it's just a file and print type of workload, that's covered by the standard server management license. If it's an application workload, such as maybe a database or email, then that would be an enterprise server management license that's required. Now, these server management licenses are actually required for every operating system environment that is being managed. So in our picture here, we have a physical server running in the physical environment, Windows Server. It then has 3 virtual machines on it, each virtual machine again running Windows Server plus whatever applications they need to be running. Now, pretty much wherever you see Windows Server, you have an operating system environment. And with the System Center licensing model, you would need management licenses for every operating system environment that is being managed. So let's take our example here. Again, imagine this is Operations Manager, and on the server at the top, we have got our Operations Manager server license. We're then monitoring a number of different sort of devices. So on the right-hand side, we have a server with 2 operating system environments running on it, and we're monitoring those, but we're really just monitoring a file and print workload. So for that particular server, we would need 2 standard server management licenses. On the server at the bottom, we've got 3 different operating system environments, and on those we are managing enterprise workloads. So we would need 3 enterprise server management licenses. And over on the client machine, the computer here has got 2 operating system environments running on it. So we can, with a client management license, either choose to license this per operating system environment, in which case in this example we would need 2 client MLs, or we can choose to license it per user, and then actually if we did that in this case we would just need 1 client management license for that particular user. So just to clarify the license model with the different products. Now you'll see here that System Center, Operations Manager, Configuration Manager and Service Manager all have a server license. So if you're working with those 3 products, you would need to buy that server license for the servers that are running Ops Manager, Config Manager or Service Manager. You will see that there is no server license now with Data Protection Manager, and also there's no server license for Virtual Machine Manager. Now the first three products with the server management licenses all have a choice of the standard or enterprise MLs, and as I've said, that's based on the workload that you're monitoring as to which management license you would need. Virtual Machine Manager just has an enterprise management license, and Service Manager just has a server management license. And then all five of those System Center products all have client management licenses for managing those client machines. Now, the server management licenses are also available in two suites. We have the System Center Server Management Suite Enterprise, or what you might hear people referring to as SMSE, and the System Center Server Management Suite Data Center, or SMSD. Now, if we think about SMSE, it contains the five management licenses for the products that are listed at the top of the slide, and allowing the management of up to 4 operating system environments per physical server. So this is great if you are working in a virtualized environment. It can be much more cost effective to buy the suite of products than to license them with individual management licenses. SMSD, you'll see, allows the management of unlimited operating system environments per processor. So you must purchase the System Center Server Management Suite Data Center. You must purchase one of those licenses for every processor running in your server. The standard server management licenses are available as standalone purchases, and as we've seen before, they are required per operating system environment. Now, one thing I just want to clarify is how else you can purchase the client management licenses. Now, the client management licenses can be bought as standalone products if desired, but they are also available in different formats. So you may well be aware that if you purchase the Core CAL suite, the System Center Configuration Manager Client Management License is part of that suite. There is also now a new System Center Client Management Suite, which consists of the client management licenses for Service Manager, Data Protection Manager, and Operations Manager. So you could purchase them as a suite if you want to, but those licenses are also part of the Enterprise CAL suite. So as well as buying your client management licenses standalone, you can get at them through the Core CAL suite, the Enterprise CAL suite, or the System Center Client Management Suite. System Center Essentials also follows a similar model, with a server license being required for the server that is running System Center Essentials, and then either client management licenses or server management licenses required for the devices that are being monitored with System Center Essentials. Now, with the client management licenses, what we have here is a client machine with 2 operating system environments running on it, but we do actually only need to buy one client ML. The client ML is assigned per device. It doesn't actually matter how many operating system environments are running on that particular device. The same would be true for the server. Down here at the bottom, we've got a server with 3 operating system environments on it. But again, we assign the server management license per device, and that will cover that server running all 3 of those operating system environments. The important thing, though, to bear in mind here there are some technical limits. So System Center Essentials can only support up to 50 Windows-based server operating system environments. So you might have, for instance, 3 physical servers running in the company. You would buy 3 server management licenses, but on those 3 physical servers, you could only ever have a maximum of 50 operating system environments running on them. So I suppose probably realistically that would happen over more than 3 physical servers. But the same would be true with the client machines. Again, you license the client machines per device, but it does top out at 500 Windows-based operating system environments. Now, the last thing to bear in mind with the System Center products is an infrastructure requirement. When you are running things such as Configuration Manager, Operations Manager, Service Manager, or System Center Essentials, SQL Server is required as a back-end data repository. So the end customers must be running SQL Server as well. We would recommend that you use standard or enterprise editions. And you have got to think about how SQL is licensed. If it's licensed per processor, then that's fine. You just buy your processor licenses and SQL is sorted. If you are licensing SQL through the server CAL licensing model, then SQL CALs will be required for every device that is being managed by those System Center products. Also be aware of the SKUs that include SQL Server technology. So if customers don't actually want to purchase SQL as a separate product, they can buy the SKUs that include the SQL technology. If you go for those SKUs, no SQL CALs are required because the licensing is covered by that particular SKU, but SQL is restricted to only be there to support that System Center product. It cannot be used for anything else. Right, let's move on now to the Forefront family. So what is Forefront? Well, Forefront's the family name for our security products, and we have a whole range of products that are branded Forefront. And they're there to protect different areas of the corporate network, from client-side and server operating system protection to protecting the main communication server applications to network edge protection. And what we're going to do is go through and look at the different products and again make sure that you're happy with what these products do. So we're starting with Threat Management Gateway. Now, Threat Management Gateway used to be called ISA, or Internet Security and Acceleration Server. So this is the new name for that. It comes in two sort of main flavors. We have the main Threat Management Gateway server, which really gives us our firewall. So it protects the company's network from attack from the outside world. But it is also giving us malware protection and URL filtering. So for instance, hopefully stopping you going to phishing sites, that type of thing. Whereas the Forefront Threat Management Gateway Web Protection Service is a service that gives us continuous updates for that malware filtering and also access to cloud-based URL filtering, so filtering that is happening before you even get to the company's network. Now, Threat Management Gateway is licensed per processor, so it is just a case of purchasing a processor license for each processor sitting in your server, and that is the licensing complete for Threat Management Gateway. No CALs are required. The optional Threat Management Gateway Web Protection Service is licensed through our subscription licensing program. So Forefront Unified Access Gateway, or UAG, is all about giving secure remote access to corporate resources. So that could be, SharePoint sites, data held in, back-end applications. But this is access for employees, partners, and vendors. And the nice thing here is that the access is available from a whole range of devices. So it could be from corporate machines, but it also could be from unmanaged devices and mobile devices. It's using a range of connectivity options from using the SSL VPN or Secure Socket Layer Virtual Private Network to also using things like direct access. The next product is the Forefront Identity Manager. And again, this is about giving users a single identity. You know what it's like when users come in, they will often have different sort of back-end applications that they need to log on to, and having different usernames and passwords is a real pain for people to remember. So to have a single identity that you can log on through makes life an awful lot easier. And having self-management of that identity again makes life much easier, especially when it comes to things like password resets and allowing end users to manage that themselves. But this is done whilst IT obviously retain full control over policies and privileges and ensuring that only the right people do access the resources that they need to. And to make life easier for IT as well when it comes to provisioning and deprovisioning users. So let's take a look at how UAG and FIM are licensed. Now, if we think about UAG first, this does just follow our normal server CAL licensing model. So for any server running UAG, you would need a server license. And obviously for your end users or devices, you could purchase user CALs or device CALs. Forefront Identity Manager is very similar in that, again, there would be a server license for any server running Identity Manager. but there are only user CALs available here. So you license the individual users that you want to be able to access Identity Manager. There are no device CALs available for this product. There are, however, external connectors available again to allow your non-employees of the company to access these servers. So, what have we looked at so far? Well, we've looked at the Edge products in the form of Threat Management Gateway, Unified Access Gateway and Identity Manager. And these are all licensed using our perpetual sort of licensing model. So as we've seen, either per processor or following the server CAL model. The rest of the Forefront products are all licensed using our online services licensing model. So what we're going to do is take a look at that and how that model works, as well as what all of the products do. So the Forefront products that we've been looking at so far, such as Threat Management Gateway, UAG and Identity Manager, are all products that would be run on-premise, in other words, installed on servers inside of your own organisation. The rest of the products that we're going to look at are products that can be run either on-premise or as a hosted solution, where they are actually run on Microsoft servers and Microsoft manage the whole software and ensure everything is running fine. Well, software that can be run as hosted is licensed through our online services licensing model, and that's the model we're going to look at before we dive into the actual products. So how does online services licensing work? Well, it works through a subscription licensing model. So the licenses and the software rights that come with them are not perpetual licenses. You are effectively renting the rights to use that software for a period of time. So obviously you're only allowed to use that software and access those online services whilst you are subscribing to them. So at the end of the subscription term, you can renew that subscription and carry on if you want to carry on using the products, or if you don't want to use the software anymore, you could let that subscription expire and no longer use those online services. Now, with our online services licenses, there are 4 different types of license. You have your user subscription license and your device subscription licenses, so USLs and DSLs. And they are there to license or enable the functionality of that online service, either for a particular user or a particular device. So I always feel the decision here between a USL and a DSL is very similar to that decision between a user and a device CAL. You then have services subscription licenses, or SSLs, which are licenses that are there to enable the functionality of a service across the entire organisation. And finally, the add-on subscription license, or add-on SL, which is there to really enhance or add on to a service that the company is already using. So how do you buy your subscription licenses or your online services licenses? Well, for the small to medium sized customer, this is really done through the 3 open value agreements. You cannot buy your online services through the open agreement. Whereas for larger customers, you'd be working through either your Select and Select Plus agreements or your Enterprise agreement or the Enterprise subscription agreement. So let's have a look at the products now and what they do. And first of all, we're going to start off with the Forefront Client Security. Well, this is basically malware protection for your client machines. So that would be, your desktop PCs and laptops that might be running, Windows 7. And also your server operating system. So it is important to remember that this is there to protect both client machines and the server operating system. There is an extra client security management console that you can purchase that enables you to manage your client machines and make sure, again, that they are updated with all of the latest software they need to be protecting those machines. And as it says on the flash at the bottom, a single installation of the console can typically handle up to 10,000 clients. So this is licensed using DSLs and USLs. So if you are protecting the Windows Server operating system, that would be a device subscription license for the server that you are securing. If it's client machines, you can purchase either DSLs, or obviously if you do have users using more than one client machine, you would purchase them USLs. The management console is licensed with the SSL license. Now the next product is the Forefront Server Security, and actually there's a number of products that we're covering on this slide. So there was the Forefront Protection for Exchange, the Forefront Protection for SharePoint, and the Forefront Security for Office Communications Server. So really we're talking about these three products in one go. And another important thing to remember with the Forefront Protection for Exchange is that that comes in two varieties. You can either have that running on-premise, or if you go for the online protection for Exchange, that would be the Microsoft hosted version. And again, this is malware protection, and there are a number of scan engines that are integrated into this solution. Some of the providers are shown at the bottom of this slide. And so it's multiple scanning of the communications that are running through those server products. And again, there is a separate management console to enable IT to manage their deployment of the Forefront Server Security products. Now, the licensing model, again, if you are using obviously the Forefront Security for OCS or the Protection for Exchange or SharePoint, you license again either the end users with user subscription licenses or the end devices with device subscription licenses. There are external connector licenses available for all of these products in the form of an add-on SL. So if you do want to secure those communications coming through your non-employees of the organisation, you can do that. And again, the Server Security Management Console is covered with a services subscription license. Now, something to bear in mind is the protection for Exchange. Now, it does come in a number of ways. So, as we said, you can purchase your Forefront protection for Exchange Server or the online protection for Exchange Server. But that antivirus, anti-spam protection is also included in the Exchange Enterprise CAL. And if you remember, Exchange is one of these products that is licensed for the end users with both a standard and an Enterprise CAL. Now, when you purchase the Enterprise CAL, it does come in two flavours. There's the Enterprise CAL with services and the Enterprise CAL without services. Now, the Enterprise CAL without services is something that you could purchase through the open agreement. And if you do purchase the Enterprise CAL without services, that does not include your antivirus, anti-spam protection. Whereas if you go for the Enterprise CAL with services and you purchase that, for instance, through an open value agreement, so you would have software assurance on that license as well, then that includes the antivirus, anti-spam protection. You're also, through the Exchange Enterprise CAL, getting things like access to the unified messaging option, which is your answer phone messages coming into your inbox. So it's not just antivirus, anti-spam, but that is one of the features of the Enterprise CAL. Now, if you remember in your CAL suites, we've got obviously our core CAL suite, which we can see has got things like our Windows Server CAL, Exchange and SharePoint CALs and Configuration Manager management licenses. But when we look at the Enterprise CAL suite, this is the one that is really quite important here because it does contain licensing for some of our Forefront products. You'll see it's got the Unified Access Gateway CAL in there, and it also has the Forefront Protection Suite, which is a whole suite of the Forefront products. So as well as purchasing the Forefront products standalone, if customers go for the Enterprise CAL suite, they are getting a whole host of those Forefront products in one go. So let's just clarify what the Forefront Protection Suite consists of. So you will see it consists of the Forefront Client Security. So if you remember, that's the protection for your client machines or your Windows Server operating system. You've got the Forefront Protection for Exchange and the Online Protection for Exchange, the Forefront Protection for SharePoint, the Security for OCS, and the Threat Management Gateway Web Protection Services. Do remember that where appropriate, the client and server management consoles are a separate purchase and that the Forefront Protection Suite is not available through the open agreement. So just as we draw this presentation to a close, a quick sort of review of what we've done. We've gone through the System Center products, which were our family of management products, and made sure that you're happy with what the products do and how they're licensed. And then for the second half of the presentation, we looked at the Forefront family, which were our family of security products. So that concludes this presentation. I hope you've enjoyed listening to it and wish you the best of luck when taking the associated assessment. Goodbye.